A few months ago, Ohio and the world lost one of the great weights and measures inspectors, division chiefs of all time. Jim Truax was a true friend, co-worker, and mentor.
He was, as far as weights and measures go, there was nobody better in my book. He helped me with everything, always. He was a quirky guy, what I loved about him. Every time we went to lunch, he would tell the waitress to just bring me what you want to bring me, and he'd never order a thing. It was confusing, but it worked for him. But I'll miss him, and he was the best.
We all know Jim as a very private person, but for some reason, I was allowed in his very private world. And all that you would need to do was hear him talk or show one picture of one of his beautiful girls, and you would see an entirely different man. You would not see the man that you saw in the office or one standing on this floor debating an issue. You would see a gentle, kind, proud father.
I met Jim the first time I came to training down here in Columbus, and it was pretty intimidating, someone with his stature and knowledge and things, and you first meet him, it's you don't know what to say, don't know what to do, you just kind of take it all in. But after you be around him a while, you soon learn that he was there to help you and act as a mentor, and I really appreciated that. When I started attending the Central Weights and Measures meetings and things, and got to be in the debates and listen to Jim and Steve Malone from Nebraska get into it and arguing, you would think that they were going at it tooth and nail, but usually they were just doing their arguments to get the other inspectors to think. And a lot of times Jim would take the devil's advocate position just so he wouldn't let Steve intimidate the rest of them. And I think Steve did the same thing when Jim was up there talking. And after sitting on the S&T committee and being on the end of some of those comments that Steve and Jim sent your way, it made you think a bit. And then when you talked to him one-on-one, he would never give you a straight answer. He would ask you, well, what do you think? And kind of direct your thinking, and he was guiding us because he very rarely gave us a straight answer.
I started Weights and Measures in 2006 working for a county in Ohio, and it was probably 3 months into the job, and we got a complaint, I believe it was on a Friday, later in the afternoon, and it was about a gas station. So I thought it'd be a simple complaint. I went out there and I checked it out, and after I got back, I called ODA to get their input on it. And luckily for me, Jim's the one that answered the phone. I wasn't happy at the time when Jim answered the phone, because the only time I ever knew Jim was we had a conference and he was up and leading the conference, and somewhat intimidated by Jim being a new inspector and all that. But I got Jim on the phone and I told him the problem that I had. He says, well, let's sit down for a minute and figure it out. He goes, got your handbook 44? I said, yes, I do, Jim. He says, well, open it up to page, the liquid measuring device code. I go, I'm already there, Jim. Well, turn to page so-and-so. I'm already there, Jim. I was happy because I knew where to look for in handbook 44. Then Jim asks, well, what's it say? So I read it to him. He goes, what's it mean to you? And I said, they don't really have a problem. And he goes, that's correct, but. And I was like, oh no, what do you mean, what's the but? He says, well, there could be an issue. It was about pricing between an analog pump and a digital pump. And I knew that they could have some discrepancies, but it was within the allotted amount. Jim says, you don't want somebody in there pulling a gun on there over a money discrepancy. I said, yes, Jim, but it does match the handbook. He goes, yeah, but. And then we kept going back and forth, and finally I got done with it. I said, okay, Jim, thanks a lot. But the thing I learned from Jim on that one was the handbook, it will tell you what you need to do, but Jim also reiterated a little bit to me, look at both sides of the story and then make your decision. Don't make a rash decision.
He was by my side day in and day out for the 8 years prior to me becoming chief. He then still was only a phone call away, or he would drive in and stop by if I had a question.
He wanted to make you think and use your own knowledge and experiences to get it, and that's what I appreciate it. We'll really miss Jim, miss him as a friend, and if anything, it's kind of like two attorneys arguing in court. Let's say get into court, it's all business, but as soon as court was done or after conference was done, you'd see Jim and some of the other state directors sitting at a bar having a beer and enjoying life and just taking it all in and enjoying each other's company. But we're going to miss Jim, and he meant a lot not only to us inspectors here in Ohio, the state of Ohio, but to the nation, to the world. Rest in peace, Jim, and thank you.
The day that Jim told me he was going to retire, I was devastated and scared. We didn't know who our boss would be, and we knew that experience was going to be walking out the door. When Jim told me that I should go ask and talk with the director and indicate that I could do this job, I was shocked, and then he sent a glowing recommendation letter. The day he left on May of 2008, I remember standing, looking at him with a box in his hand at the door, and he gave me a big thumbs up, and I was crying, and he smiled that big smile and walked out the door.
And over the years, getting the chance to talk to him every now and then when I came on with the Ohio Department of Agriculture, got to interface with him a little bit, and I did talk to him about the story. I don't know if he remembered it or not, but he always wanted us to look at both ways and before we make a rash decision on something. And that's the one thing that I do appreciate Jim, and he did bring a wealth of knowledge to the Ohio Department of Agriculture and the Weights and Measures Inspector, and he will be missed greatly on that.
Rest in peace, Jim. We all miss you.